Okay, I want you to picture a bookshelf. But not just any bookshelf, the one in your head, where you keep the books you feel like you should have read.
The shelf of shame. I know it well.
Right. There's probably Moby Dick on there, maybe Ulysses. But, right in the center, casting this huge shadow, is the undisputed heavyweight champion of books I'm too scared to start.
Oh, I know exactly where this is going. You're talking about the brick.
The Brick. The absolute doorstop, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace.
Yep.
Just saying the title feels like a homework assignment, doesn't it? It triggers this, immediate fight-or-flight response.
It does. You think of the 1,000+ pages, the 500 characters who all have 3 different names.
And you just think, maybe next year.
Or maybe in my next life. I mean, it's the Everest of literature for a reason. It's famous for being difficult.
Exactly. But here's the twist, and this is why we're doing this deep dive. We're not just here to summarize the plot for you. We're looking at a whole stack of sources' reviews, articles that argue there's a specific cheat code for this book.
A cheat code. I'm listening.
A way to experience it that doesn't just make it easier, but actually makes it, fun.
Okay, that's a bold claim. But the data we're looking at seems to back it up. We're not talking about the physical text today.
No, we are talking about the audiobook edition.
The audiobook. And that's the key that unlocks the whole thing. It transforms the book from this intimidating history lesson into what our sources call a vast human tapestry.
A world you can actually live inside.
And that's really the mission for today's deep dive. We want to explore how the audio format it removes that fear factor. We'll get into why listening works so much better. We'll debunk the myth that it's just boring guys looking at maps.
And we'll get into the surprisingly modern philosophy on chaos, leadership, and why a 19th century Russian aristocrat might actually understand your anxiety better than you do.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start right there with the audiobook advantage. I have to play devil's advocate for a second. If a book is really dense and complex, doesn't listening to it make it harder to follow?
That's the common assumption, yeah.
Like, if I zone out for 30 seconds while I'm doing the dishes, did I just miss the entire invasion of Moscow?
It's a fair question, but our sources argue the opposite. They say reading the physical book is the real endurance test. You're constantly aware of the weight of it in your hands,
You're checking the page number, measuring how far you have to go.
Precisely. You're focused on the finish line, not the journey. The audiobook removes that. You aren't getting through it. You're just existing alongside the story. It shifts it from studying to immersion.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there's a very practical, technical reason for this that one of our linguistic sources pointed out, which I found fascinating.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It's the French.
The French. Wait, I thought this was a Russian novel.
It is, but you have to remember who these characters are. This is the Russian aristocracy in the early 1800s, and they all spoke French to sound sophisticated.
Ah, to separate themselves from the common folk.
Exactly. So in the original text, huge chunks of the early chapters are just straight up French.
Oh, wow. So if I'm reading the physical book.
You're constantly looking down at the footnotes. You read a line of dialogue, then you look at the bottom of the page for the translation. It completely breaks the flow.
That sounds miserable. It just pulls you out of the story every 5 seconds.
It does. But in a good audiobook, the narrator handles it seamlessly. They might use a slight accent or just read the translation in a way that feels natural. You get the whole rhythm of the conversation without the friction.
That makes a ton of sense. It removes the friction. But what about the other huge hurdle? The names.
Ah, the names. Yeah, the cast is massive. And in Russian, a character might be called by their formal name, their nickname, a title.
So you're constantly thinking, wait, is this the prince or the count or the cousin?
Right. But a skilled narrator gives each character a distinct voice. You don't have to remember that Prince Vasily is speaking now. You just hear that, slippery, scheming tone, and you know exactly who it is.
It's the difference between reading a script and watching the movie. You just recognize the voice.
And it brings out the humor. That's something people miss. Tolstoy can be really sarcastic. When you read it on the page, you might miss the irony, but when an actor performs it, you hear the joke.
Okay, so the format gets us in the door. It handles the French, it handles the names. But once we're inside, what are we actually looking at? The title, War and Peace, sounds like a 50-50 split, and the war part is intimidating.
I get it. Is it just 60 hours of generals moving pieces on a map?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest myth we have to debunk. The title is a little deceptive. Yes, the Napoleonic Wars are the setting. But the peace part isn't just not war, it's society. It's parties, love affairs, gambling debts, family drama. It's basically a soap opera.
So it's like Downton Abbey with cannons.
That's actually a fantastic way to put it. And even the war parts, Tolstoy isn't writing a military textbook. In fact, he actively hates the idea of military strategy.
He hates it, but he's writing about Napoleon, the master strategist.
He hates the myth of strategy. He's not interested in the grand plans. He's interested in the psychology of the soldiers standing in the mud, you know? How do ordinary people deal with extraordinary times?
So it's less about the board game and more about the human breakdown.
Perfectly put. The war is just a pressure cooker. It provides the heat that forces the characters to reveal who they really are. The real stage is always their inner transformation.
Okay, let's talk about those people then. If we're going to spend 60-plus hours with them, we need to care about them. Who are the main characters we follow?
There are 3 or 4 you really need to get your bearings. First up, you have Pierre Bezukhov.
Pierre. I feel like I know him. He's the awkward, kind of clumsy guy in all the adaptations, right?
He is the soul of the novel.
Yeah.
He's this illegitimate son who suddenly inherits a massive fortune. He's socially awkward, he's a bit of a mess, and he has absolutely no idea what to do with his life.
That feels very, very modern. The rich kid with a heart of gold but no purpose.
Exactly. He tries everything to find meaning. He tries partying, secret societies, philanthropy, just getting drunk. He's basically asking, okay, I have everything, so why do I feel so empty?
So Pierre is the heart. Who's the brain?
That would be his best friend, Prince Andrei Bolkonsky. He's the total opposite. He's brilliant, handsome, ambitious, and just deeply cynical about everything.
He's seen it all, done it all.
Yeah, he's bored. He goes to war looking for glory. He wants to be a great man, you know. He idolizes Napoleon at the beginning. His journey is really about disillusionment.
And who's between these two? The heart and the brain.
That's Natasha Rostova. If Pierre is the soul and Andrei is the mind, and Natasha is just. She's life, she's impulsive, emotional, vibrant. She feels everything so intensely, which means she makes some terrible decisions.
It's the chaos agent.
She's the vitality. She represents just being in the moment. The sources call her profoundly human because she messes up. She breaks hearts. She gets tempted. But she has this incredible capacity for joy that the other two kind of lack.
So we've got the searcher, the cynic, and the live wire.
And the plot is really just how their lives intertwine over 15 years. But, and this is the deep part, it's all happening against this backdrop of huge philosophical questions.
This is the part people get scared of, right? The essays that Tolstoy just drops into the middle of the novel.
It is, but in the audiobook, it feels less like a lecture and more like someone reasoning out loud. And here's the core idea. Tolstoy absolutely hates the great man theory of history.
The idea that history is shaped by a few geniuses, like Caesar or Napoleon.
Right. The idea that one guy in a tent points at a map and changes the world, Tolstoy says that is complete and utter garbage.
That's a bold take for a book about the Napoleonic Wars.
And that's why Napoleon is the villain of the piece. Or, well, not a villain so much as an anti-hero. Tolstoy shows him as a guy who thinks he's driving the car, but really the car's on autopilot.
Okay, I like that metaphor.
History is a giant wave. Napoleon is just the foam on the very top of the crest. He thinks he's pulling the ocean, but the ocean is pushing him.
So who is the ocean then? Who's doing the pushing?
We are, all of us.
The regular people.
Exactly. Tolstoy argues history is the integration of infinitesimals. It's the sum of billions of tiny decisions made by ordinary soldiers and citizens. A battle isn't won because of the brilliant order.
It's won because 10,000 guys decided not to run away at the same time.
That's it, and that's terrifying, right? Because it means nobody is actually in control.
It's just chaos.
It is chaos. That is the theme. When you listen to the battle scenes, you don't hear a chess match. You hear the fog of war. You hear miscommunication, a messenger getting lost, an order never arriving. It's all just chance.
So if Napoleon is the illusion of control, is there a character who actually gets it right, who understands the chaos?
Yes, the Russian commander, General Kutuzov. And he's often criticized historically for being old and passive. In the book, he's literally falling asleep during war councils.
The guy who falls asleep in meetings is the genius. I kinda like this guy.
He's the genius because he knows he can't control it. He represents wisdom through humility. He knows you can't force the river to flow backward. You just have to watch it and wait for the right moment.
So Napoleon tries to force history, and Kutuzov just endures it.
He endures it. And that feels like a huge lesson for today, doesn't it? We're obsessed with the visionary CEO who controls everything. Tolstoy saying, maybe you should be the sleepy guy who listens.
Acknowledge what you can't control.
Which leads directly to the question of free will. If we're all just drops in this massive ocean of history, do any of our choices actually matter?
Yeah, that's the big one.
And his answer is, it's nuanced. He says we have the feeling of freedom, but we're always limited by these invisible forces, our context, our biology. The audiobook helps here because reading about determinism is a headache.
For sure.
But hearing someone reason through it, it's like a deep conversation. The takeaway is you can't control the context of your life, the war, the economy, but you have freedom within that frame.
You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that brings us right back to Pierre, Andre, and Natasha. They're all just trying to learn how to surf.
So let's talk about their endings without giving away too much.
Yeah.
Does Pierre, our searcher, ever find the meaning of life?
He does, but not at all where he expects to. He spends the whole book looking for a big answer, a philosophy, a religion.
Something to follow.
Yeah, but he finds peace in the simplest thing imaginable, connection, just connecting with other people.
How does that happen?
There's this famous part where he's a prisoner of war. He has nothing, no money, no title, no comfort. And he meets this simple peasant soldier, a guy named Platon Karateev.
Okay.
And Platon just shares a baked potato with him.
A baked potato.
A baked potato with salt. And in that moment, eating that potato in the mud, Pierre realizes he's happy.
The baked potato of enlightenment. I love it.
It sounds so simple, but it's profound.
Okay.
Tolstoy is saying meaning isn't in the grand abstract ideas. It's right here. It's in the immediate, tangible reality of caring for the person next to you.
Life is not controlled. It's experienced.
That's the internal piece of the title. The characters who chase external glory, they end up empty. The ones who accept their smallness and focus on their community, they find it.
That is a pretty heavy critique of our modern influencer culture, where everyone is trying to be the main character.
He's saying that trying to be the main character is a recipe for misery. And this applies to the love stories, too.
Right. The romance. Is it a fairy tale?
Not at all. Our sources call it romantic realism, which is a nice way of saying it's brutal. People marry the wrong person, they get bored, they cheat, they build someone up in your head, and then get disappointed.
I feel seen.
The lesson is that love only gets real when the illusion disappears. When you stop loving the idea of someone and start loving the flawed, actual person in front of you.
So the book is just constantly trying to pop our balloons, the balloon of glory, of romance, of control.
Yes, but what's left after the balloons pop isn't emptiness, it's reality. And Tolstoy thinks reality, if you just look at it, is beautiful.
So let's bring this home. For the listener right now, walking the dog or commuting to work, why should they commit 60 hours to this? Why does it matter now?
Because the anxieties are the same. First, there's the leadership myth. We still obsess over these powerful figures thinking they have it all figured out. This book is a powerful reminder to be skeptical of that.
And what about the anxiety of just trying to make it the whole hustle culture thing?
Absolutely. We live in this world of optimization. We track everything. We try to hack our lives. And Tolstoy is shouting from the 1860s, just relax. You cannot control the tide. Your job is to live with integrity and pay attention.
It's weirdly comforting to be told you don't matter as much as you think you do.
It takes the weight of the world off your shoulders. The verdict from our source is a solid 5 out of 5. They call it a life-altering experience. It teaches you patience. And honestly, it makes you feel less alone in your confusion.
Life-altering is a high bar. But here you describe it, not as a history book, but as a guide to living through chaos. I get it.
It's a companion. It's a friend walking with you saying, yeah, life is crazy. Here's how I got through it.
So, to sum it up for everyone listening, War and Peace is not a trophy for your bookshelf. It's not a test. It's a world. And the audiobook is the passport.
Yeah.
It turns that intimidating brick into a long conversation with a wise, funny friend.
And I want to leave you with one final thought, tying back to that idea of history.
The idea that small actions shape everything.
Right. If Tolstoy is correct, if history is just the accumulation of billions of tiny choices, then that means your life, your choices matter infinitely more than you think.
How so?
Because there are no small actions. Every small kindness you show, every moment of patience, every decision, it's a variable in the giant equation of history. You are moving the wave.
You might not be the foam on top, but you're the water.
You are the water that moves the world. So the question is, what small action are you going to take today? Because you never know which pebble is the one that starts the avalanche.
That is a powerful place to end. You might not be Napoleon, but you are the ocean. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Anytime.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.